Hey, welcome to I'm Refocus Radio once again. Just like any other time, we have another outstanding show with an outstanding guest today. Today, man, we're going to the music world, and our special guest, Rene Benton, he's going to share with us all the great things that he has been able to do in his career, but he also has served his country too. He served Marines, and we're going to learn what sparked his creative bug to get into the music industry. So first and foremost, Renee, I just want to get you right in the show. Say thank you for taking time on your calendar. How you doing, man?
Never better, man. Any day above ground's a good one. I'd rather pull daisies than push them.
Ah, I love it, man. See, that's a true artist right there, just out the gate doing that, man. First and foremost, man, tell us a little bit about your experience with the military. What got you down that road, and then what sparked the idea for you to get into the creative world of music?
Okay, so I went into the Marine Corps. It was essentially I didn't want to go to college right away after high school, and I said if I'm going to learn, somebody's going to be paying me to do it. That was my mindset, and I was really young thinking that way. And me and my crazy self, I I said, well, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and it seemed as if at career day in high school the line was really short. No one was going to the Marine guy. And I said, why? I said, are you open? He said, yeah. And it was pretty much went from there. And I they didn't have the internet back in the day like that. So you pretty much only thing you saw were TV commercials and whatever you may have seen through other people. And so I said, I have to be a part of the Marines. I said, either I'm coming home with a in a pine box or an Eagle Globe and anchor. That was my mindset. And that's how the Marine Corps thing went. And I went from total of 6 years, four active and two reserve, and it was maybe a year after that that I started to pursue music, and it just one thing meshed to another, and uh, ended up being a touring musician, and it's been an incredible ride thus far.
And before you made that jump to pursue your music career, did you have any person of influence, any styles of music that kind of grab your attention before you say, you know what, this is something I actually want to do professionally and pursue it?
Yeah, I I grew up in a house full of music, so it was pretty much R&B, funk. My grandparents listened to gospel stuff on those really thick records. They used to be about almost a quarter of an inch thick, and I came up with that. And as time went on, I started to diversify my listening. And one of the first gigs I had, I was touring with a rock band, and I doubled on keys and guitar. Now the way that worked was because I was a product of Segregates when they started busing kids to the other side of the town, and the radio station that we would play in my hometown in Omaha, it was called Sweet 98. So you would hear everything from Stevie Wonder to Crystal Gale to the Eagles. So that it subliminally things got in my head. And so I was diversified early on, and that's what expanded me going into a lot of different directions. So that's how pretty much how it went down.
Music industry, it can be a fun industry, but it means business at the same time. So how did you balance starting out, understanding, okay, I have to wear my business hat, but at the same time, I want to have fun with this and express my creativity for the world to see and hear.
I never wanted to be a star. I just wanted to be a working musician. There's a difference.
Mm.
So I've always been really cool with just being in a support role. Uh, I just wanted to work as a musician. And when you're just working as a musician, as opposed to trying to be the centerpiece, the business aspect is different. With me, my only concern was as long as the check doesn't bounce. I didn't have to take it beyond that. Um, the only thing I had to be conscious of was who I align myself with. You don't want to get out with some band, you're in the middle of some country and you realize that this is not a really nice person. So that's pretty much as far as it goes there. Now, it became more business when somehow I ended up getting into the solo thing, which was a complete accident. I just wanted to, I just wanted to see. I wanted to see if I was good enough to get a record deal, but I never wanted to sign one because when you take away the internet and instant likes and all that stuff, there was no way to know. And the only way you knew was you had to send something to a record company, you had to wait to hear from them, and they send your stuff back to you or something like that. So that's what it was for me. And that's when I started learning about record contracts. Um, I they're always very thick in nature. Even if they're digital, it's a lot of pages. And I immediately sought out somebody legal to make it make sense to me to kind of compile it. And that's one of the reasons why I never exclusively signed to anyone. And I just ended up going my own route. Not that it's bad to sign with people, but for me, the terms and conditions weren't something I wanted to be locked into long term.
Once again, let's not refocus radio talking to our guest today, Rene Benton. Go to his website, renebenton.net. Let's talk about when you release your first project. Tell us a little bit about that process. What was the style of music and what was the title of that project?
Okay. So the first thing that I recorded but did not release until later on, it was Expressions. That was around 96. I At the time, the music that I grew up loving, which was funk and R&B and all that, it had transitioned. I'm a guitar player, and there was no more guitar in the music. As you remember, or maybe you don't, I don't know, but the New Jack era came around. It was just heavy keyboards and drum machines. That was it. And if you had if you happen to be fortunate enough to align with somebody that was performing live, there might be a guitar there, it might not. And so I always doubled on keys, but I realized I'm a guitar player, and how am I going to do this guitar thing? And I just went back to my childhood and I just started reminiscing a bit. And so my first record was a statement piece. It was pretty much metal. It was a metal record. I skipped over the rock thing, went straight metal. Uh, I didn't know it was going to sound that way until I started recording. In my head, it sounded different than in reality. And so when it was compiled, I said, wow, I said, I'm way on the other side of the fence here without doing it. But that garnered a lot of attention, and that's what really helped me to go forward. I got the stamps of approval from record companies at the time. Excuse me, I meant to say early 90s when I got my first stamp of approval. And then when I put it all together, it was about 96, so about a 4-year period there. And it was metal. It was a straight up rock / metal record, uncompromising. And it went from there.
When you look at your creative process, everyone's is different. Everyone's is unique. For you as a artist, what do you try to do when you're exploring ideas and trying to format a song, and also just seeing where it can possibly land?
The number one thing is stop listening to other music. Shut off all radio. Shut off everything. Only listen to yourself. Because you have enough outside influence already floating around in your head as an artist. You don't need to keep adding stuff. That's the number one thing. Number two is don't press ideas. Don't feel pressure to write a certain way. So I would say I go in with a sense of freedom and a sense of just not being afraid to experiment with different sounds, different rhythms and things of that nature. I just go in free. I don't go in with a formula per se. I try and avoid that.
When you are building your brand as an artist, do you pay attention to like the style of like the colors that you gravitate towards, or just the structure of how you present yourself online? How do you go about representing yourself as an artist so that when people see you, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, let me go ahead and check this out."
Yeah, I came from I come from the old school of you should sound good but look better. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense, sound good but look better. Because if you're having a really bad night musically, at least they can look up and go, "Hey, at least he looks cool."
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. Appearance is very important. What you, especially in this digital age, I think your appearance can be very important. And people, they will say, well, appearance is very subjective. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think that we've made it subjective, but I don't think it is. I think there's still a certain presentation that you have to put out there if you're an artist and you're up front.
Yeah.
People want to see something that they're not all the time. It could be this big, it could be this big. So this packaging is important for sure.
When you are building momentum, you're doing all these interviews, you're getting yourself on these different platforms. What does that formula look like? Because someone who might be new to industry and they may not understand how that works when it comes to handling media and just like you kind of said moments ago, presenting yourself in a certain package. How do you get yourself these opportunities to present themselves as you are not just wearing the business hat, but you also represent yourself as an artist out there?
If you are putting yourself out there into the universe, as they say, make sure that you're interesting. Make sure you have some form of a storyline. Um, what what separates you from the next guy? What's your storyline? No one wants to hear uh, things that they could do. They want to hear at least one or two things that makes them jump back and say, "Whoa, he really did that." Um, when reaching out to wonderful people such as yourself, of course, a lot of people are helping me to reach you. Very thankful for that. But one of the first things you notice is that I was in the Marine Corps. That's a storyline.
Yeah.
Out of all the branches in the world, why the Marines? Right? So that builds a storyline, and how, like you were saying, how you transition from going to the Marine Corps to the industry. There's storylines in there. So the biggest thing is make sure you have a storyline, not a contrived one, but a real storyline. You have to build on that. Um, that's the biggest thing for me. Make sure you have a storyline to build upon, and if you don't have a storyline, you make one. That's that's pretty much it. Yeah,
Yeah, because when I went to your website, renebenton.net, I'm like, wow, like presentation, this guy is actually like putting something together. Because sometimes people slap stuff together and you can kind of, you can see from a distance, like, I don't know if they're serious about this. But you're taking it very serious. So were there anything like in the military life that you kind of held on to, some of the values, like some of the structure maybe that you found useful that you kept with you with your creative world?
absolutely. There's a difference between discipline and self discipline. Um, I define self discipline as doing something you definitely don't have to do, but doing it as if your life depends upon it.
Mm.
And stepping into the artistic, creative space, it takes a ton of self discipline
Yeah.
because you're answering to people, but it's in a different type of way. Uh, and you have to have a lot of self discipline to know when to say yes, when to say no. Don't jump at every opportunity because every opportunity is not for you. All money is not good money. And you have to know how to have a ton of self control. Some
Mm.
self control could be something as minor as we live in this digital world. You put music out there, not everyone's not going to like what you do. And if someone expresses that they don't like what you do, you can't launch into them like a Scud missile. You have to have enough self discipline to accept what people say.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of folks are, as you well know, they're not ready for that.
Yeah.
They're in the assumption that everyone's going to like what they put out there. I am definitely not that guy. I'm expecting the bad stuff first, and then maybe a couple people will dig me. But that's probably that self discipline thing of not of controlling your thumbs and not typing is a big part of it. I'm using that as an example because it's very tangible, but there's other areas as well. So dragging that from the military side of things, just even that self discipline, just doing stuff when you don't feel like doing it, not letting your emotions control you, but yet be passionate. That's another trait of Marine Corps, and that really plays a huge role in where I'm at right now.
This is Refocus Radio Talking to our guest today, Rene Benton. Go to his website, renebenton.net. Let's go in on that even further because when you are in the industry, you can tell those who are seasoned, they are really going all in with their craft and their professionalism. When it comes to the younger ones that are trying to get in the industry, what are some of the basic fundamental building blocks that they can do to position themselves to have a long-term career versus someone who kind of off and on does music versus someone who actually takes it seriously and remains that student with action?
One of the biggest things, especially younger generation today, uh, don't don't be obsessed with fame. Don't be obsessed with notoriety. I'm not saying don't get noticed, but don't be obsessed with it. And I notice a lot of younger people today, they live and die through likes,
Yeah.
and it'll upset their whole day. And that's not it, because there comes a time where the computer is unplugged and you've got to be on a stage somewhere. So if you can't handle something in the digital realm, how are you going to handle it and when someone's booing you right in front of your face and you got to keep going? How are you going to navigate through that? So first thing, develop some elephant skin if you're going to be part of the industry, music industry especially. Develop the elephant skin early on, um, and understand that trends are trends. Don't firmly attach yourself to a trend, but at least know of a trend. Don't be ignorant. And uh, if when all else fails, the love for your art and craft should be there. Meaning that just because somebody didn't like you, just because it didn't have the financial overflow as you were hoping for, don't stop doing it. Because if you stop doing it, that means you never really loved it anyway.
Yeah.
And you should be able to, you should just pick up a guitar for free and just play for a few minutes or a few hours, whatever it is. Uh, and that's my advice to the folks coming up. Just follow that, and it'll keep you in there for a long time.
As we discussed prior, you have been able to place your stamp in the industry and have a successful career on your terms. And I like that because I like how you emphasize that at the end of the day, it's not about how famous you are. It's really more so how effective are you as an artist with your platform. Because to your point, if you're worried about likes, but you can't take a boo in real life, well then you might want to reconsider your career. But when you had your experience being at different venues and working with different artists and different musicians, I remember you said in the earlier interview, um, starting as a musician first mindset versus like being the center focus. Now that you have a variety of those experiences, what are some of the things that you've been able to appreciate and enjoying the learning curve of being at different venues and working with different professionals?
Working with different professionals, the leadership aspect of things, um, making sure that everyone is taken care of. When you're in a leadership position, when you're an artist and it's your thing, making sure everybody is taken care of and respecting everybody from the light technician to the janitor. That is huge. You have to do that. You should, excuse me. You should do that. That's what I learned through the leadership aspect of it. Because it's when you watch people in action, you look at how they treat people, they're they're making sure that you're okay, right? I'm not going to mention any names, okay? But I was on a flight. I was going from London to Phoenix. I got done doing something there, and a it was a rapper. He wasn't as well known then as he is now. He had to have at least 12 people with him. I didn't know who he was. It was someone in this band I was with that pointed out who he was. I didn't know who he was. I found out later who he was. But one of the things that impressed me was his whole crew. He had all of them in first class. I know because I wasn't. I had to walk by him. I was their coach. So, but that's how I know everybody was with him. At least 12 people, all in first class. British Airways, which was very nice. Conversely, I was flying from Phoenix to Miami, and there was a reality star, very well known, had to have about 5 or 10 people with her. She was in first class, and they were back in coach with me and my guitars stuffed up there. So that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. I saw the contrast in real time. And I said, well, I'd much rather be like this other gentleman than this woman here. Those types of things matter because people will always work with you if you treat them well. If you don't treat them right, you'll always have to assemble a new crew around you. You'll always have to get a new publicist, a new bass player, a new drummer, a new photographer. You'll always have to do that.
Wow. That's a great point because I think that's very true. You can do a lot of chasing for opportunities versus opportunities kind of just flow your way. And I know that on a personal level, when you stop trying to be that famous person or be like so and so who does it this way, and you just focus in like what you just said. How do I help other people get their win? How am I helping them make progress? Because it doesn't matter the level of the job, because at the end of the day, that could be the very person that connects you to the job or to the next opportunity. Touch on that because when you are seeing these new opportunities come your way, isn't that part of the equation that you also have helped people along the way?
Oh yeah, big thing there. I, I I mention it just because it's relevant, not because I'm trying to say look at me. But to date, I've toured 42 states and over 70 countries. That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. And the only reason it came two ways because I've always been consistent in my attitude and work ethic. So people are willing to hire me. And then I pull other people up and I present them with opportunities so they can experience some of the things I've experienced. But so my recommendation, if I say, hey, this is a cool person, you want to work with them, and that keeps that whole cycle going. You have to lift each other up and build one opportunity on top of the other. Conversely, if you're one of those type of folks that shows up late all the time, if you don't make your flights all the time, if you don't keep your passport updated, people aren't going to really want to work with you all that much. And that affects who you recommend as well. So big on that whole thing. And there's no such thing as being early as just being on time or being late. And a lot of folks don't view it that way, but I do. Because I just want people to know, hey, I mean what I say and say what I mean. But that's essentially it. Just be a professional. And being a professional means being prompt. It means presenting yourself in all times. When you're leave a country, you become an ambassador for your country. You have to view yourself as an ambassador. And I know and you do too, through looking at the news, everyone does not have that attitude.
Yeah.
They don't view themselves as ambassadors for the United States, which is where we're from. I view myself as an ambassador. So I always have to present myself in a manner. And I read stories all the time about various people leaving the United States and they get in trouble. And I say to myself, well, I've been in and out of that country several times. I've never had any issues at all. How is it this person goes in one time and all this stuff happens?
They're trying to get me. Oh my God.
They're trying to get me.
That's
Yeah,
true. That's
I yeah,
that's
that's that.
true because when I mean we can probably talk for another 30 minutes, but as we wind up,
Yes, sir.
that's a great point to focus in on because I have many people who've been on the show and I've been wowed by. And it's because there's a common thread. And that common thread is that one, they care about what they're doing. And that kind of makes sense why they have this massive success in their life. And two, this regular old guy talking to all these big celebrities like you included being
Oh,
successful in your career,
oh,
it's
thank you, sir.
it's humbling to be able to have the opportunity just to have these type of discussions because I have to sit back and say, wow, like I got to have this kind of conversation. And if it was someone else, it could have been an easy, massive invoice for a master class. And I got to conduct the interview for free and get the secret,
Wow,
the blueprints of success. You see what I'm saying? Like people
indeed,
don't understand that, like the the power of communication and how you're able to learn from someone else's perspective, someone else's lens. I never take that for granted, man, because it's wild. I tell it all the time. Like I'm just a regular guy on the microphone. I'm not just saying that just to say I'm a regular guy, but I'm just saying like that's how we all start. We start as an amateur, and then we perfect our craft. And
mm,
depending how your trajectory goes, it really relies on what you're doing in the moment. Do you let the moment slip away or do you capture that moment and keep building momentum? So there's only two things you're doing. You're building momentum or you're allowing it to collapse and you're missing it. And then it's like spoiled milk. You can't get it back because once that time is gone, that magical time moment in history is gone.
indeed.
Interviews like this, we get to capture it and then boom, it's forever recorded. It's like that's what this is about. Because when someone listens to this and then they start chasing their dream, they change their direction, they take your secret nuggets and they start formulating what they're going to do to get themselves ahead. That's why we do this show. I
Indeed.
didn't mean to go on a little ramble, but
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're
that
fine.
is the power of living in your moment. So as we close,
That's
talk to the audience, someone who is a creator themselves, and they might be frustrated because they're like, you know what? If I'm honest, I'm kind of off and on in the whole music game. But after listening to Rene, I want to get back into this. What would you say for them in order for them to sustain their success in the future? What they need to do with their foundation?
history repeats itself, but opportunities don't.
Yeah.
You're only going to get so many opportunities at making a go at this thing, whatever that thing is for you, especially on the artsy side. Um, it does. Might not be an expiration date on it, but opportunities can come and go. Uh, don't miss out on your opportunity because of attitude or because feeling that you're not prepared for something. I, I write I write songs beyond my skill level all the time, and I have to play up to them. No, people generally they write at their skill level. I always go one notch above, and I always have to push myself a little bit. Um, that's keeping you out of your own comfort zone. Um, it's cool when you have a formula that works, but push your formula and just take that opportunity. Uh, don't don't be afraid to be different. A lot of people are afraid to be different. They say walk a straight line, put on cricket shoes. Don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid to push envelopes. That's usually when you're just getting started. That's where the good stuff starts, when you start to push those envelopes. And by all means, not to sound so cliche, but don't give up. If you know you have something and the world needs to see it or hear it, don't give up because there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff thrown at you. I have things thrown at me as we speak right now, but
Yeah.
I don't give up and I don't give in. And you have to have that undying spirit of just not stopping. You have to be relentless with this whole thing. That's the only thing I can tell them. Just you have to be relentless. You can't stop. You can't stop, because the moment you stop is the moment that something else could have happened.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, once again, been listening to Refocus Radio and talking to our guest, Rene Benton. Go to his website, renebenton.net. Before we officially sign off, is there recent or ongoing future projects that you want our audience to learn about, and how can they follow you on social media?
Yeah. Okay. I'm on the usual plats, as they say, Insta, Facebook. I'm not TikToking just yet, but there. Website. Thanks for recommending the website. That's being reconstructed as we speak right now, but it's still up. And of course, this new record coming out, To Live in Omaha, Live in Omaha. It's going to be an interesting thing. The album artwork has been gaining some attention. I'll let you check that in a second if you haven't already. I'm working with an artist outside of myself, an R&B singer by the name of Abram Moore. He's got something coming out here soon. We've been working on it for a little while now. It's more along the lines of traditional yet modern R&B. So that's the thing I'm working on. But right now, the focus is just, not selfishly, but it's kind of just been on me, just trying to deal with my stuff and manage that. So that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, once again, listen to this or watching this on YouTube with us, go to his website, renebenton.net. Follow him on his social media, because we might have him on in the future again. He has another project or whatever he has, updates and news. Once again, man, like always, I want to say to you, Rene, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Take care, brother.